Welcome to another exciting episode of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Brad Sugars, the Chairman and CEO of Actioncoach, and today we're diving into the minds of some incredible business leaders, uncovering their real stories, strategies, and the secrets behind their victories. It's not just about success, it's about the journey, the hurdles, and turning challenges into opportunities. So let's jump right into it.
Welcome to the Epic Entrepreneur Podcast, the go-to spot for insights from the successful players in the business world. Today, I am excited to welcome Lance Hill, the CEO of 8 Group. Lance, welcome, and it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Let's dive into the top 3 things you did that made you successful in business and how others can follow in your footsteps.
Well, top 3 things. That's an interesting one because it'd be hard to keep it to 3. There's so many. I guess my 35-year career in the industry. I guess for me, the top 3 things is about learning. I think probably the first thing that I look at and I look back over my long career is learning, and that's learning from key people. I would say it's all about people. So I think when I look back, there's probably 3, 4, maybe 5 key real influences in my working life that have made a difference to me that I look at now and go, yeah, I can see there was a moment or certain things that happened or a style or values or culture from certain individuals I've worked with over a number of years for different businesses. And these were business leaders. These were, MDs, CEOs, or maybe even just key people that I guess resonated with me in terms of a style and whilst most of those are positive, there may have been two or three people in there where there were some negatives. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to do that. I never want to be like that person, if that makes sense. So obviously the positive ones are the ones that stand out the most. But I think for me, it's looking back at some of those key people I work for, and that there was something that they did that stuck with me and influenced how I wanted to become and probably how I am now. I think I could certainly look back at that and look at my behaviours now and go, yeah, I can see a reflection from those individuals. I think that's the first thing.
Okay, talk to me about those 3 or 5 influences. What did they teach you?
I think it was leadership. I think, there's that classic difference between a manager and a leader. Yes, I've had some good managers, but I think it was about leadership and creating visions and values and a culture of a business or even a team. Mm-hmm. And again, having worked for, I guess, a range of different businesses, I've worked for SMEs, and we're an SME now, and I've also worked for a very, very large corporate business as well. So I worked for Royal Mail for 4 years, and I went from the printing industry, which is what I'm in, which is mostly sort of small and medium business, and you go into a very, very large organisation like Royal Mail. It's a very different structure, very different from a cultural viewpoint as well in terms of how teams are managed. So I think it was just leadership and values and creating, I guess, painting a picture, being visual about, right, this is the journey that this leader wants to go on and how you get everybody, I always say, get everybody on the bus. We're all going in one direction. Let's make sure the business or the team is going in the same direction. And I think it was about creating that and also that transparency about being really clear and consistent in messaging. I think those are the things that stood out for me.
Okay, brilliant. So learning is one. What are the other 2?
Going above and beyond. I think I was very, very fortunate from a young age when I first started my career, and certainly when I first went into I came from a production background originally, but when I moved into, I guess, more of a sales and marketing sort of office-based environment, I think I was very fortunate. The first company I worked at where I spent my first sort of 4 or 5 years, it was a business that had a very, very strong reputation for customer service, for going above and beyond. And I think, again, I've been fortunate that all the businesses I've worked at, probably bar maybe 1 or 2, that's always seemed to have been the DNA, where it's about being the best you can be, going above and beyond, going the extra mile, all around customer service, because, I think that is what stands out. And I think looking back at my career, I've learned that from others. I've worked at businesses where that was kind of core to what they did, but then also that's the culture that we've created here and what we've done here, and that it's about going above and it's about reputation. So I think if you get a reputation in whatever industry you're in for service and excellence in service, then it's about people come back and people buy people. And I think when you look at the modern day, today, everybody's time poor. So I think
Right.
being better than everybody else, even if you're not the cheapest, people want to make their life easy and be the best. So I think it's that going above and beyond culture is a big one. And then linked to that, probably the third point, I think, is reputation. So I think, excellence in customer service then leads into you building a reputation. So you create a brand, you create a business that has a reputation in your industry, or even in multiple industries, where people want to come and work for you, come and deal with you. Customer go, oh, these guys are this business is really making some moves and is making waves in an industry. We need to have a look at what they're doing. So again, that's reputation. It's attracting customers, that's attracting staff, attracting even supply chain, and building networks. So I think that is really key as well. But I think all those things knit together quite nicely as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. And do you believe in the old adage that customer is king?
Yeah, 100%. One of those business leaders that I talk about, that's probably one of the key influences. That was one of the key strap lines. He said, customer is king. I think, maybe it's a bit of a cliche.
Yes.
But it's true. Is the customer always right? Not necessarily, but the customer is always king, because ultimately, without customers, you don't have a business in whatever you do. So it's very important that you are focused around them and what they do.
Oh, what are some of the top lessons you've learned from your customer based on the feedback they have given you across your career?
I think listening. I think feedback is so important. I think one of my little paranoias I have is not to be a sausage factory, and by that I mean don't be an order taker. So yes, we might price a job or price a service or do some work, but we like to challenge as well. So don't just say, okay, we'll do that job and we'll deliver it and we'll send you an invoice. It's about challenging and actually then listening to the customers, understanding their market, understanding their business. So I think feedback is really, really key, because everything's so fast paced. So do we need to modify and change or adapt our service offering to a specific client and make sure we're not a one size fits all, being bespoke to each individual customer's needs and what we do. So I think that's really important as well.
Okay. So you mentioned learning, going above and beyond. And is it reputation your third one, or is this another one?
Yeah, no, I think reputation is the third one. I think, and again, that is built on that customer relationship and understanding, because I think it's very, very easy in the day to day just to kind of be on the bike, peddling the business, but actually you need to stop and ask questions. And one of the things we do like a survey to our customer, but actually then having a one-to-one meeting with the key customer and actually sitting down with them and saying, okay, is there anything that's troubling you? Is there anything we don't do that you want us to do? Anything you're not happy with? Because these are sometimes questions they don't get asked because everybody's so busy. So sometimes actually just asking them, is there anything we're not doing that we should be doing, or anything you don't like about what we do, or that kind of stuff. And again, that helps us build our reputation as well, because if we do that for all of our customers and then they see that we're adapting, we're listening to them and maybe making small changes to help them in their business, then that's a great place to be. And again, that helps us build a reputation as well.
Lovely. And speaking about technology, looking at AI or machine learning, and you want to embed this with customer service, what have you been up to, or what are you all doing as a company?
Technology is really key. I think it's interesting because the printing industry as a whole, whilst our core business is printing, we're actually a marketing services provider. So we offer data, design, creative, email, postal delivery. But technology is actually a really, really key part of what we do, because digital printing has moved on significantly. And we're looking at AI at the moment. We're starting to look at embedding that into certain things internally. And a couple of our guys are looking at going to on conferences and webinars, understanding more about how AI can come into our sector. So technology is actually really, really, really key, and also around efficiencies as well, because the model of our business, like many others, has become so much more fast paced. We need automation. If we didn't have automation, I'd have to employ another 10 people, which just wouldn't work, viably and from a commercial aspect. So technology and automation efficiencies critical, I guess, in any industry, but in ours just as much as any other, is that it's something we have to be aware of and are investing in, have been investing in for a number of years now. So yeah, technology is key, and I think AI will see more and more of.
Excellent. And Lance, let's go back to your beginning. What made you decide to get into business, and why this particular business?
Well, going back to my, I guess right at the beginning, I started work. Oh, sorry, the light's gone off. I started work in 1989. So this was before, just before the recession of the early 90s. I'm just going to see if I can get this light to come on. There we go. And the printing industry back in 1989 or late 80s, early 90s was big, and it was in East Midlands. It was big industry. This is before the internet, of course, before email. And I knew the money was good in the industry, so that was one of the drivers for me. I thought I want to do well, and also I was quite interested in creative and design. That was something, and it is a very creative industry as well. So that's what got me into this industry. And I think, again, going back to what we said earlier about key influence in people, I think I saw opportunities. I thought I could see. I was around some other entrepreneurs, or there were some business leaders that really stood out for me, and I could see there was a career path that could see me through and help me develop. And I think I just had that ambition from very early on. Even when I was an apprentice, I was just fascinated by the job I was doing and the people I was around. And I could see there were some really successful people who were clearly doing very well. They were driving nice cars, this sort of stuff. And I thought, yeah, I want some of that kudos. And this is, bearing in mind, I was probably 16, 17 years at the time. I'm now 51, so it's a long time ago.
So do you drive a nice car now?
Yeah, I do okay. Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah. I might add it's a hybrid car, so we're okay. we're very environmentally focused in this business. So yeah, it's one of those, I guess, small rewards I get from it. But yeah, because I started at the very, very bottom, cycling to work, 10-mile round trip every day. I think I've got my roots kind of in place, but equally, I think I had that, I don't know, I obviously had that ambition from quite a young age. I could see the art of the possible, I guess, in terms of a career path and what other successful people were doing in that business at the time. So I think that's just what drove me on. And I wanted to learn all the time as well. So I think that was the thing, and still do. Every day is a school day, as the old saying goes.
Yes, indeed. And in all this time, what has been your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge, no doubt, I think I've had, every day has its challenges, but I think there's probably a period that I look back on that was without doubt the biggest. So going back to 2007, I was involved in my first management buyout of a direct mail and printing business. I used to work for a long time ago, and 2007, I'd been. Just prior to that, I'd been promoted to managing director. The owner of that business was trying to create a MBO team effectively. So we then did the management buyout in November 2007. And if you remember, early 2008 was the credit crunch, so the global meltdown. So that was a challenge because our business at the time had some significant issues around that. But then also I was managing director of one of the divisions. So we had a small printing division that was... It was old technology. It was in decline. It was a bit of a cash cow. We were kind of running this business into the ground in some respects, but it was still doing really well. And bearing in mind, I was probably, how old was I? I was probably early 30s, I guess then. I had to, I was a bit older than that. We had to basically cut the company in half. So I had to make half the staff redundant, so sort of 26 staff. So I had to lay off 13 people. And I'd never done that before. It was a whole new experience.
Right.
Very much on my own. I had to go through a skills matrix with all the staff, and the staff were fantastic. They were all really loyal. There was no bad apples there. It was a great business, and that was really tough. That was really, really challenging in terms of having to, make 13 people redundant, go through a process to do that. And I think that was probably one of the most challenging things I've had to do in my career that I probably learned the most from as well. And I still use that today because it was pretty painful, very, very stressful, sleepless nights.
Right.
But I look back at that and go, I did it the right way. And I think that's one of the things I'm proud of. Whilst it was tough and probably wasn't very popular with those 13 people I had to make redundant. And actually, further down the line, that business actually had to close altogether. So the rest because it was a decline of business. But that was probably the most challenging time I can recall, and one that's probably set me up for the challenges I've had since, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I've seen a number of business owners or entrepreneurs when they go through such challenge. I mean, you've been through the credit crunch. When there was COVID, and there are also voices in your head and people around you, maybe your loved ones saying, Lance, you need to give it up. You need to, move on. Have you faced any of those kind of inner voices, external voices, and how did you deal with them?
Yeah, I've had that. Again, I think when you're under stress in business, you do need to consult with other people. I think I think running a business can be a lonely place, but I think I'm lucky my wife's a very, very good sounding board as well. She's been working as long as I have, not in our industry. Mm-hmm. And there's the voice of reason. Then there's perhaps other mentors or key people you trusted allies that you might go to to seek some advice. My accountant actually now is probably my best one now in terms of a bit of a sounding board. It's somebody who's not connected directly with the business, but you could go, right, I need a sanity check on this. So there are times where you absolutely question yourself, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's ever bad to question and have challenges over the thought process. But for me, I think going back to those challenging times, it's about doing things with empathy, preparing correctly, scenario planning, doing things. Well, even my dad used to say, do things properly, do things the right way, with have credibility, have empathy. And I think that's some sort of core values that I guess I've always been brought up with, and I kind of carried that into business.
How big is empathy for you?
That's massive. I think if you've got to have challenging conversations with people, or even if people want to come and talk to me about an issue they've got, I think it's really, really important to be on a level and understand and take into account all the different factors that are there. So again, I think that's about being prepared for different scenarios. If it's an individual, okay, what's going on in that individual's life? Why are we having this conversation? Or if it's me giving some bad news to somebody, it's understanding all of that and understanding all the factors and scenarios. And there might be some outside forces in play as well that affect that. So I think empathy is really, really important. I think that for me is a key element to being a successful leader that people respect, because you understand, you're on the same page, you're there, you're not just kind of dictating, you're understanding the scenario.
Excellent. And talk to me, 30 years into your career, and now Lance has decided to go and find a business coach. Tell me more. What made you do it? Why did you do it? And what's the kind of current situation with the business coach in your inner team, I would say?
Yeah, I think there's an element of timing, Simac, with that. I think I've had some coaching before. When I worked at Royal Mail, we went through a leadership and development program, and I had an internal sort of coach and mentor there. And then I had some training of my own so I could coach other people. So it'd always been quite close to me in terms of having a coach or even being a coach, and maybe something I look at to do further down post-8 group possibly. But it was timing. I think this business has grown very, very rapidly in a short space of time, and I've had to spin a lot of plates, pedal really quickly, recruit people in to support me. And I think we're now getting to a stage in our journey as a business and the group in that I needed to start what I call looking at taking the helicopter view a little bit more on the business. So the classic working on the business, not in it. It's a cliche, but we all know it's true. And I think the timing of having a coach was great for that, because it's forced me to do it. So now I've got a coach. It is actually giving me a real discipline around that model, that on the business, not in it. And I think I can see in a relatively short space of time, it's making a difference, because it's forcing me, and in a good way, to make sure the business structure is right. So, the right people in the right seats at the right time, and making sure that I am focused on driving the business forward. I'm not too much in the trenches in the doing, if that makes sense. So I think the coaching side is making a big difference early on, but I'm looking forward to the results it will bring over a longer period of time.
Brilliant. And in terms of coaching, is it only you that gets coached, or are there other players, other people within your business that?
It's mostly me, but then we have brought in. I've got a senior leadership team here, so we've brought them into the fold as well. in certain pockets where we've needed it, where you do want that team focus, because I think
Yes.
I'm very, very lucky that the SLT I've got, we're all very, very much on the same page in terms of, ethos, culture, values, where we're going. Very rarely do we ever disagree on a decision. It's pretty much, any one of us could say, right, we're going to do this, and go, yeah, I agree. So we're all on the same page and we're all driving in the same direction, with the same goals. So I think, yes, mostly it's me having the one-to-one coaching, but there are definite times where I bring the rest of the leadership team into that as well, which I think is a huge help, because again, it gives them time to step away from the day-to-day as well and actually have a little bit of take a step back and look at what we've done, where we're going, what we've achieved, but what we need to do next, because the work never stops.
Yes. Interesting article I was reading this morning, actually. It was, I think one of the statistics is for every dollar you invest in coaching, you get 10x the return.
Yeah.
So for others listening into this podcast, would you recommend having a business coach earlier than later? Or what's your current take on it?
I think the sooner the better. But I think one of the things that I've learned about coaching is that you've got to have the time, you've got to commit to it. I think I think there's business leaders out there who probably like the idea of coaching, but they perhaps haven't thought about the actual the nuts and bolts of it. You need to dedicate and commit to it, because at the end of the day, it's an investment, and you have to see it as an investment, and actually it's going to drive you as a business leader to be better, to make your business better. So I think a business coach is a really, really good thing. I mean, I know a couple of people who've got more than one coach, which I find slightly odd. They might have 2 or 3 different coaches, maybe for specific things. But I think the sooner that, I think if your business is in a position where you need to take it to the next level, and maybe you're not sure how, then I think a business coach is a good thing, because I think it just gives you that little bit of discipline and experience from somebody who's seen loads of different leaders, loads of different scenarios, because we're all working on what we know in our own business. But I think having the outside voice, outside vision, outside experience across any sector, I don't think it matters about how you run a business. I think it's a good thing, and I highly recommend it. But you've got to be committed.
Got to be committed. And I noticed you mentioned the word discipline, also accountability. How, given that you sit on top of the chain, how was that kind of change in mindset now that you have to be accountable to your coach? Yeah,
I know, and that is a great one. I love that, actually, because it puts me under a bit of pressure, which is not a bad thing, actually. I quite like that. So yeah, it's going from, well, do you know what? I could carry on running this business on my own, controlling everything, or I can have a coach who's going to actually chip away at me and go, what about this? What about, and challenge me. So I like that. And it's just keeping me on edge a bit more, which is actually a good thing, because it's far too easy if you carry on being, you can easily get complacent if you're not careful. And again, that's a paranoia for me. It's about, we want to be the best. We want to have the best customer service. We want to be the best in our industry, but equally, that's got to keep me awake at night as well, and go, okay, what else can we do? What do we do next? Where do we go next? And having a coach keeps me on edge a little bit, but in a good way.
Excellent. And you know what? I'm one of those crazy ones who has, or the odd ones who has 2 coaches, 2 or 3 coaches. So, okay. Let's move back to your business. What strategies have been most effective in growing, it group, and how can other business owners apply similar tactics or strategies?
The biggest thing for me is people.
Okay.
I have a saying, surround myself with people cleverer than me or better than me. Because at the end of the day, you can't do it on your own. So when I look at this business, bearing in mind that we've, since I joined here in 2019, we've doubled in size in terms of headcount. We've tripled in size in terms of turnover, sales. I couldn't have done that without recruiting the right people. There was great people here already, and we're really lucky we have a low turnover of staff. The culture and the values is great. Again, real customer focus, but we've recruited well. We've brought more people in who are of a certain level and a certain standard, and again, share the same sort of DNA that the core business has. So for me, it's people first every time. If you don't get the right people, then it's going to hold you back. So investing in the right individuals, is by far and away the biggest part of strategic vision and growth is that all day long.
Excellent. Yes, people are a major factor in the success of any business. I think I was reading Scaling Up this morning, and it was, at the end of the day, it's not a business to consumer, business to business. It's a people to people business, right? At the end of the day, right? Lance, how would you describe yourself in one word?
In one word, driven.
Excellent. And what are your 3 non-negotiables?
3 non-negotiables. I think one would be integrity, doing things with integrity, and that's not just me. That's any individual in this business. In terms of, and again, that's probably linked to reputation. So, if we're making a decision about a supplier, a customer, doesn't matter what it is, it's doing things with integrity, doing things properly. So we don't want it doesn't matter if it's a customer or supplier or whoever, or even an ex-member of staff leaving this business with a bad taste in their mouth. If that makes sense, it's about, again, just doing things the right way. Might not always be easiest of decisions, and we might have to make some tough decisions, but it's about integrity. That's certainly the first thing.
And what are the other 2 non-negotiables?
Honesty. Again, I guess it's linked to integrity a bit, but honesty and transparency. I think those are really, really important. We do briefings to the staff pretty much every quarter throughout the year, which is very, very transparent view of how the business is performing, what our goals are, where we're going, what's just happened, what's changing in the business. So we communicate. So those are really, really important things that we communicate. And again, I think, and then probably the third thing that's linked to that is being fair. I think it's being fair. I want to be treated fairly by my customer, my supplier, or my business associates, whatever. So we have to treat people fairly, and that's everybody. Staff come first. Obviously, they're our number 1 priority, but it's about being fair and consistent. Those are non-negotiables, definitely.
Brilliant. And last question: what is a top piece of advice you got, or you would give another entrepreneur listening onto this podcast?
Don't try and do it on your own. I think, I think I've seen business owners who struggled on their own, and then I've had conversations with them. You bounce things off and go, well, why not bring somebody in to help you do that? And you can't do it on your own. I think if you try and do it on your own, it'll break you. So I think, again, I mentioned this earlier, surround yourself with the right people, surround yourself with better people than you or me. So I want to surround myself with a team that I think are far cleverer, far sharper, far better than me. And I think that is the number 1 piece of advice I'd give to any other entrepreneur or business leader or somebody who wants to grow. I think that's, it comes down to people.
Excellent. Lance, thank you. That's the pod for today. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And that's a wrap for today's epic conversation here on Epic Entrepreneurs. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for pouring their heart into sharing their journey. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it, or hit that bell. But until next time, let's make sure you keep dreaming, take massive action, and stay epic.